Hi, I'm Vanity, and you're watching the Spike Type channel.
I don't know if you've seen the new Cypher player card. He has like all the cameras and shit, and he's
Yeah,
watching
yeah,
it.
yeah.
That's like me with like Val streams every day. So like I use that player card. But yeah, I'll just go into it. How have you been spending the downtime like between kickoff and now?
Playing Valorant, I think it's really all we
Yeah.
do. Obviously made changes. Very happy with the players we picked up. I'm sure it's Rooney and Moose. It gets announced today, so it doesn't really matter if I say it. This probably won't go out before the announcement. If it does, unlucky. I'm very happy with them. I think adding these two players has helped us a lot in the communication department. I think that's kind of something we were missing in our last team. Is I think me and Zeppo were the only people that really communicated like a lot. And I think adding Rooney and Moose has given us like a new depth to our game style because we have a lot more like information on the map at all times. Um, it's definitely the biggest thing. We've been playing pretty well in scrim, so I'm excited to play.
Did you know Rooney and Moose before like you started playing with them for the team?
I've known Moose forever. We met in
Since
ESEA Open,
CS.
bro.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Me and Moose met in ESEA Open. Rooney, I haven't known him very much. You know, the funny part is, I don't know if I'm the one that got him a trial on C9 last year, but I brought him up to MCE. So
Yeah.
I was like,
Okay.
we need an initiator. Rooney's a shooter. Let's play with him. And then he took my spot. Unlucky. It is what it is. But I like Dylan. He's really great to play with. He's a nice guy as well.
That is a story that happens though. I mean, it's all love though. I just wanted to ask you that you said a couple things in there that were super interesting to me. First of all, about MCE, real quick. Okay, so you talked about you met Moose, blah blah, MCE. Okay, so you guys just got a new assistant coach, right?
Yeah.
Is it Googly? Is that how you pronounce
Googly.
it?
I love
Okay,
Googly.
okay, cool. I didn't want to like mess up his name too much. You mentioned MCE. Obviously he's a pretty good coach. Like he's really good. He's with Maryville now. He's pretty nuts. You didn't have an assistant coach before. How has it been working with him? Like, is it better? Is it improved now that you have like a more like sound and more structured coaching like staff?
Well, I think we were literally the only team in all 4 VCT leagues without more than one coach. So
Yeah,
we were
yeah,
at a
that
bit
makes
of a
sense.
disadvantage, I would say. I mean, obviously, like, it's not necessary, but having an extra voice and like someone to help us with things definitely helps a lot. I think Dylan and Caleb and Rooney have been helping a ton in that category as well. But Googly has been great to work with. He provides a lot of like insight or like a great insight for our scrims. It also gives Imi more like eyes on the scrim because he doesn't have to like hard focus on everything. He can like he needs to focus on like me, Oxy. Like he can focus on an individual googling for someone, and then it's a lot like we can improve more because we have more like eyes just to see like what's going on and like what's going wrong or what's going right. And I think it definitely helps a lot having an extra set of eyes.
Yeah, I mean, and by like, but just by raw numbers, even though it's only one more, it's technically still double the coaching
Yeah,
power.
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it's a huge upgrade. So that's awesome to hear. I'm glad you guys have like a proper coaching staff in place. Obviously, though, I don't want to say like, oh, C9 they did a little bit rough just because they didn't have an assistant coach. So I just wanted to ask you like,
Nah,
what was going on in those games? Like, obviously you beat MIBR and then you lost MIBR, or do I have that backwards?
we beat Energy, or we beat MIBR, lost Energy, lost MIBR.
Okay, cool. I got them the right order. Yeah, so I guess just like what happened. Like, you don't have to go super in depth. Obviously, it was a while ago, but like, what do you think went wrong in those matches?
I don't really like. I just feel like we were really good early on with that team, and then I think like me and Emmy and the management. It's not like it was just us replacing players. Even our manager was like, something feels wrong, right? Like there was some things with like prior teammates that definitely weren't like the most competitive like mindset players, I guess. Like I still like them a lot, like Jake and Max, really great guys. But I think that for like the style that play, I think we need people that are more vocal, and I think that's just something that neither of them are strong at. Like it's not like they don't talk, but it's like they don't speak enough. Like say you're like a lurker on both maps, I feel like you should be trying to paint like a picture for your team, like what's going on, like what you see, what you hear, what do you think you should do. And I think that's something that adding Rooney and Moose has given us a lot more depth in our gameplay because we have people on the extremities that are going to be a lot more vocal and willing to take like risks. I think that was like the biggest thing actually is I think that Jake and Whippy were very like risk averse. Like they just didn't really take many risks, which is understandable. Like it's just like how you are as a player. But I think that in this game, you kind of need lurkers that are like willing to take like a chance in a round. Like you look at Les, you look at Alpha, like they're gonna take their fights, they're gonna take their 50s, they're gonna try to get timings, like, and I think it makes the game a lot easier to play when you have players that are like confident in themselves to do that. And it's something we tried to work with Jake and Whippy on, but it definitely didn't prove fast enough. And with how small the sample size or like tournament size is in Valorant, like you don't have a lot of time to like lose. Like you lose like 3 or 4 games in the split. Pretty rough, like to qualify for champs at that point. So we definitely felt we needed a change. Obviously, like we're gonna get memed on, whatever, doesn't matter. Other teams made changes, they don't get memed on. Who cares? But yeah, I'm very happy with how it's going so far, and hopefully we play well in the matches.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Something interesting. I mean, I guess this can be said for not like every team, but a lot of teams. So I guess it's not like the craziest stat in the world, but like you guys have quite a few like XCS players.
Yeah,
Obviously, you used to play CS a lot. I don't know how much most people follow both CS and Valorant. I would say it's probably actually not that big of a crossover.
I don't think there's much overlap at all, to be honest.
So like probably not that many people know about your time in CS and like how back in like the COVID time when it was like the online era, like you kind of like took over for Steel and Chaos and you kind of like popped off and you like won a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff. Like I don't know if a lot of people know that about you, but I know you that way. So I know you like as a certain kind of player. So I just wanted to ask, like, you mentioned before, and I actually asked you this before, but I told you. What was it like? Basically, when you switched over to Valorant, you mentioned in a previous interview, I don't remember where it was, but you mentioned like you wanted to play like lean more into your strengths. I wanted to ask like if you've been able to do that yet. Like with this roster, do you think you'll be able to do that? Have you been able to do that yet in Valorant? Because from an outside perspective, it does feel like you haven't been able to like fully like unlock yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask like if you think this is like it's kind of a loaded question, but like is
No,
this
yeah.
like when you think you're gonna unlock yourself or whatever?
I think that this team feels the closest to the original C9 team that I joined with Zed and Mitch. I think in terms of like everyone has like a very similar mindset. They view the game a very similar way. So I would say that this is probably the closest I've been to that. V1 as well was pretty similar, but I think that like the C9 roster was Zeta and Mitch was probably the best team I've ever had. Like not firepower wise, because I think our last year roster, if we got to play with that team, I'll die on this. I think we would have been top 4 world minimum if we actually like fuck it, I don't give a fuck. If we fought back against MCE and just let Ye play Jet on the maps that Jet was viable, I think we would have been a really good team. I think if the Harbor Viper meta got played with that roster, we would have been really fucking good because it fit our roles really well.
Yeah.
And it's I think something we struggled with the last team last year was MC struggled with Ye on Jet because he's not like a pure entry, but it's like you don't need a pure entry really. It's like we can play around him. He was the best player in the world for a reason. Like he is a very good player. We need to lean into his strengths instead of trying to mold him into something he's not, which is something I think a lot of people in Valorant try to do much is like look at Paper X for example. They play their own game. They don't care about what anyone says. They play what they're good at. Even CS, it's like lean into your own strengths. You shouldn't try to be people you're not. Like we're not Astralis, right? Like when we were Chaos, like we're not Astralis or whoever was the best at the time, G2 or something. Vitality, I think. We should lean into what we're good at, and we can take things from other teams, but we shouldn't try to mimic them because like we don't know exactly what's going on, what makes them think that way. So we should lean into what we're good at and take things from them and adapt them to our own playstyle. And I think that this team is very good at that so far. Obviously, it's on the room and hopefully it continues on stage. But I'm very happy with the roster we have and I'm excited to play. I definitely think this is like a high. Obviously, people like are gonna joke, but I think we have a pretty high ceiling if we can continue to improve like we have been in scrims. We've had a lot of like we didn't start off super great, but as of late we've been playing very well, and I'm very happy with like the improvements.
Yeah, 100%. The only thing I wanted to ask you though is I'm kind of bouncing around, but it's just because I'm just randomly thinking of it, like because you're mentioning like playing together and getting your scrims together. Is like you guys actually spent like the previous roster right before this actually spent a lot of time in the off season playing. Like you played like the Superdome,
We
and
played Korea,
10,
Japan, and Colombia.
yeah, exactly, the 10 Valorant thing. So like, do you feel like that was just like because you guys looked kind of cohesive there? Do you think it was like things were like going well, but it still wasn't like as good as it could have been, or I don't know? It just felt like you guys did have definitely some potential. Is all I'm trying to say.
I think in Korea we played really well. but I think that was before we really got to practice much because we formed in, I want to say, the beginning of September, and then we went to the end of September, like the last day or something like that. So we didn't have a lot of time to play together. Like we were just kind of like free flowing, I guess, because we had 2 weeks of scrims prior to that. And then
Yeah.
in Tokyo, I think that having Rahul Curry as a replacement for Whippy made our team. I don't think it matters who Rahul would have replaced, like between Jake or Whippy. I think if we played with him at that tournament, we would have done better because he's a very vocal player. I praise him a lot. I think he's a great guy, great player, great teammate. I think just adding that third voice made us a lot better as a team, and I think it's something we kind of noticed after playing that tournament. It's like this felt really good because we had someone else that was going to like help control rounds, like take over like when they need to, like if they need to call something because they see something, they're gonna do it. And I think that was like kind of a, I don't know, like wake up call is not the right word, but it's like a realization, I guess. It's like we're definitely lacking in our current team in this regard, and it's something we tried to work on for the next 2 or 3 months. I don't know when we played February, so like 3 months roughly.
Yeah.
And it never really improved a lot. Definitely got better. Like we definitely got a little better about it towards the end, but was never the same, I guess. Like we just were missing that like third vocal person in our team.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So I guess it would be easy to surmise that you like to play with like vocal players.
Yeah, for sure. I think
Yeah,
that
that
I
makes
think this
sense.
game in general is very hard to play without constant information everywhere on the map. Whether that's like sound info, like what you see, anything like that, like what you like notice teams are doing, right? Like if you're playing a team on Ascent and they KO knife in one way every round, and then they don't do it one round and your A main guy doesn't say it, well, you might just get fucked in the round because you're going into something that you should be aware of, but people aren't communicating properly. So I think definitely that's the biggest thing that we've noticed has improved.
Okay, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I wish my teammates in ranked agreed with that.
I do too, trust me.
I like get called troll for calming.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'll be
Valorant
calming and
communities.
they'll be
The
like,
Valorant
"Dude,
community is weird,
they're
bro.
like, dude, shut the fuck up." I'm like, my fault,
Yeah.
OTL. It's
Like
just letting you know
I
you're
play
streaming.
like CS2 Premier with like Prius, like a couple nights every couple of weeks. Like we play like maybe 5, 6 games every couple of weeks, and I get people in like 19K Premier who try harder than Radiant top of 500. It's like, uh, maybe
Yeah,
it's maybe it's like the group, like ages. I don't know. It's just there's something weird with this community. Maybe it's
I
like the
don't know.
streamers do it. I don't know what it is, but trying's not cool. It's
Yeah, they
really,
definitely try harder in CS.
it's just weird, man. Like I don't get why you queue something and you don't want to try. It's
That's
just it's
dude. That's exactly what
it's
I
never
say.
made any maybe I'm just old. Like that's got to be it, but it's just weird to me. It's like why am I going to queue something and spend all this time if like I'm not going to try to win?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, especially when there's like a bunch of for fun game types
Yeah, exactly.
like that you could just go into. But I guess just to close it out, I just wanted to ask, like, you said that the roster is pretty strong. Obviously, that's based on scrims and stuff, but mostly based on like you playing with them, having good comms and things like that. So it sounds like you guys are. I don't want to say like like a cliche term, like you guys are clicking or something, but it just sounds like you guys are like all on the same page, I guess.
Yeah.
Heading into the start of the stage, and obviously you let me see. Yeah, you play Leviathan EG loud and then 100 Thieves Furia.
Yeah.
So I
Then I
mean,
think our last match is that might. I think.
the thing is, NA has so many good teams that no matter what, your schedule is going to be a pretty good schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I think every team
Like
in
I'm pretty
America's
hyped for these
like
games.
like every team I think in America's is good, like regardless of what people think. Like
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
pretty much
They're
any
very
team
good.
can beat any team.
So
Everyone is
like,
just good at this game, I guess, I think. Maybe
so
it's not everyone's good, but it has a lot of variance, so there's like a high like there's not a very big difference in the floor and the ceiling. So I think that it causes a lot of like parity within like the teams.
yeah, okay, yeah. No, so about the variance thing, like, do you think that's just based on like matchups and like matchup styles, or do you think that's like just like throwing cheese picks and stuff in there? Like, where do you
Um
think the variance comes from?
I definitely think the gimmick picks are a part of it, but I also think it's like the game in itself leans into a very chaotic style, and I don't think any team in the world has figured out how to play Valorant ideally yet. I think the closest we've seen was Fnatic last year, but even then, it's like I think they only lost to Loud, so that's definitely like a stylistic thing. But yeah, I think game style definitely matters a lot. I think the Americans tend to fare pretty well against Europeans, and then not so much against APAC. At least that's like how it's been in prior years. I want to say I could be wrong, but I think that's
Yeah,
been pretty normal across the board.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense as well. That's why I asked this because I mean, I don't know how much you follow other like sports and stuff, but like in the UFC they always say matchups make fights.
Oh
So
yeah,
like
100%. I
you
would say
might
it's
have
similar.
some dude like just going on a rampage, right? Like he's just smashing the division. Like really, he's like 6-0, like defends a
Yeah,
bunch. And then some dude that like got manhandled maybe 2 fights ago by some other dude that this guy smashed might just like smash that champion because just the matchup
yeah,
stylistic difference is just so big. And I feel like that happens a lot in Valorant, especially like honestly, like even in your matchup against Leviathan, like they don't play exactly the same way. Like they don't just play like standard vanilla Valorant. So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's pretty interesting to think about like how each team kind of like has a different style that like works or doesn't against other teams. But I think that the best team can play against any style. So
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I think that the best team compete with any style, but I think it's like most teams aren't at the level where they are grasping multiple like game concepts, I guess. Really, the only team we've seen that's able to grasp concepts is honestly Loud. I think Fnatic was really good at their style, but I think that Loud definitely had the upper hand on them for whatever reason. Whatever the style is that Loud plays, like it's pretty loose. So maybe that's like a part of it. But I think like it's like a loose structure, I guess, because you can tell they have a lot of set things, but they like rely on their individuals a lot to help them win rounds. And I think it's very strong style. It's kind of how I view the game as well. But I think you need people that are very cohesive to make a style like that work.
yeah, no, I agree. I also think that Loud has a lot of flexibility. Like they kind
Yeah,
of are down to try whatever. Just to go back real quick though, is on the best team can beat any style. I also do think sometimes though that sometimes the best team has one style that maybe beats everybody's styles for now, if that makes sense. Like maybe for like a
yeah,
little
I could say
while.
that.
I'm not talking about any team right now, by the way. I don't want anybody to think I'm only talking about Sentinels or something. I'm talking about in general, a team in CS or Valorant can have a style that does really well for a little period of time that maybe smashes everybody, but it's actually not that three-dimensional. It's just that it hasn't been figured out yet.
Yeah,
That's all I'm trying to say.
I would definitely say that's a big thing in Valorant. It's like you can find a style that works really, really well, but at a certain point, it's like people always say like it's harder to stay at the top than get to the top. I
Yeah,
think that's pretty accurate because once you're there, people are going to do everything they can to figure out like how to beat your style, and you have to
yeah,
constantly be like willing to adapt and change style. And I think that we haven't had that yet in Valorant because the game is pretty new still. I mean, it's what like 3 or 4 years old. Um, and I think that
yeah.
people are getting a lot better at that, like being able to play within multiple game styles. But I don't think we're at the level yet where it's like fluid for teams.
Yeah, only reason I laughed is because everybody's been saying that. John Q just said that in a stream. He was talking about like, oh yeah, it's harder to get to the, or he didn't
Yeah,
say
yeah,
it.
that's
It's
a
hard to
pretty
get.
cliche like
Yeah,
esports moment when people win events. Like everyone says
yeah.
that.
Everybody
So
and especially lately, everybody's been talking about it.
yeah,
So it's just really funny. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I have. I don't want to like take up too much of your time. You gave me a lot there. So yeah, I super appreciate you talking.